They watched. They waited. Now their time has come. Out of the depths of space, the ultimate terror. Moving, searching, destroying. From body to body, from life to life, from man to woman. Changing, growing, burning for our life force.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello, people.
This week, we'll be discussing the science fiction horror classic, Lifeforce, starring a lot of British actors, including, shockingly, Patrick Stewart. Crazy. It is crazy that he's in this.
I know. He's not as sexy as when he was Jean-Luc.
Well, this is before. This is back when he still had to do movies like this. Although he looks exactly the same.
He looks exactly the same. And like How the West Was Won, except I think he had black hair.
Sweet Jesus. I think
completely bald on top, but with like a Caesar ring of black hair in the back.
Right. I saw him, I think it was in Excalibur. And it was the same situation as that.
Oh, Excalibur. I wonder if that still holds up.
I'm sure it does not. Good times. So, Aaron, give us your 30-second synopsis of Lifeforce.
Okay, first of all, it's 2.5 hours. Let me just lay that on you. 2.5 hours of... Okay, this is it. It's Alien, but with naked lady space vampires.
Sounds good. Where do I sign up?
Sign up. That's what I thought. And you're comparing, you're like, it's like The Hunger. No, it's not like The Hunger beyond female vampires.
Who are naked. Who are naked. Yes, that's how I compare
it. And then you add aliens. Basically, space people discover a giant spaceship. It was supposed to be like 4 miles or something.
Right.
When they got up to it, it seems to be 4 feet. And crusty, dehydrated vampires on the outside, and nubile, young female, and a couple of effeminate males seem to be just fine. Let's bring them in. None of this protection like in Alien. At least they had some containment, some decontamination. Didn't work for them. At least they tried. These people are like, screw it. Just put them right into our own beds and such. Yikes.
I don't know if they went quite that far, but yes.
Here's my 30 seconds is strolling on and on and on. It's the basic idea of vampires actually originate from outer space. They don't drink blood. They just suck your energy out.
Your life force, if you will.
Your life force, if you will. I don't know if you noticed as I'm skipping ahead, but at one point, somebody literally shit out their light force. He was like bent over and the blue light was coming out of his ass like a rocket.
I did not notice that. Was that in the climactic London Has Fallen scene?
Exactly. London survived the Blitz, but sure took some hard knocks here.
You're telling me. And it seems to come out of nowhere. It's like everything seems cool, and then suddenly London's in chaos. Walking Dead.
There's a lot of things just coming out of nowhere. So that's my 30-second review. Space vampires. But apparently they kind of die like regular vampires. Not stabbed in the heart, but in the solar plexus.
It was kind of, yes. It was
good enough?
Yeah, I wrote down, because we need to talk about this. This is crazy making. When did you ever heard of this movie?
Never in all my life.
Never in all your life?
No!
I remember seeing a print ad for this movie back in I'm not even joking, back in like 1985. And I'm the only reason I know the year is because I just looked it up. But I remember seeing it, and the print ad was like a full page spread, and there was no pictures from it. It was just like the tagline was basically like, this movie is far too terrifying to even show you anything about this movie. So growing up, I thought this clearly is, just the thought of that was about to give me nightmares.
Oh, man.
And
That's when you know you got a shitty movie where your marketing is, I'm just not going to tell you anything.
We can't show you anything. It is too frightening. And of course, that's a load of hooey.
That's a lie. Because not one goddamn thing terrified in this whole movie.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Now, I like this movie. I think I saw it for the first time, I don't know, 25 years ago, maybe.
My lord.
Hit the blockbuster. Let the good times roll. And you're bowled over by how much full frontal female nudity there is, just right out of the gate. They smack you right in the face with it. Where here's the beautiful space vampire, and you're just like, okay, now she's walking. Now she's going down the stairs. Okay, so she's still naked, I'm noticing.
Make sure you get more VAD shots. I mean, I think 3/4 of the way into the movie, she must have gotten pneumonia, so they finally gave her a cloak or something.
Yes. By the end of the movie, they give her kind of a gossamer gown to wear. But for the first 45 minutes, bone naked. Naked.
London can be cold, friends. It's all drafty castles and fake labs. And I had a big question. Who knew the British had such a space, I don't know, did they have like a NASA? Did they go places? Are the British in space?
This is an important question.
Is this some kind of English space fantasy?
This is absolutely a British space fantasy. To my knowledge, there is no British space agency. So there you go.
And did you notice they sent the poor Columbia up to go rescue him? Is that what happened to the Columbia?
That's what happened. It's a sad situation.
Do you realize that we have a district, and it's a district where my kids went, where all the elementary schools are named after space shuttles, and almost all of them were the ones that exploded.
Well, Columbia didn't explode, did it? I thought just the Challenger exploded.
So we have Columbia. No, I think Columbia, it was 2 of them.
What was Discovery or something?
We have a Discovery, we have Columbia, and we have Endeavor. And
there weren't that many. And some of those, they were still using 20 years after their shelf life. I mean, they were still pushing those damn things. Finally, they said, you know what, this is getting absurd. We need to ground a few of these bad boys. People have cars that aren't this old.
I'm Googling it. The Challenger.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
Columbia. What happened to Columbia?
Yeah.
It blew up? I thought it was just retired.
No. The Columbia disaster was the fatal incident. Was that when the teacher was on it?
No, that's the Challenger.
All right. Well, we didn't. Luckily for us, our district didn't also have a school named the Challenger.
Well, we've determined that maybe there's 4 schools in your district. That doesn't seem like that. That's that many, sadly.
How dare you? My children went to Columbia. And besides, it was also the name, of course, of an old sailing ship. So there was a big poster of it, but they had to put a little sticker over it because it had like a little Nazi symbol on it.
What are these schools? Indoctrination, to say the least.
But poor Columbia, it came to rescue them, and now we know it blew up because of vampires.
Shall we jump right in?
I thought we did, Fred.
Let's hit the highlights, or as I call it, the WTF moments of the movie.
Let me just say, it starts off like it's high production. It starts off like Star Wars. You got the London Symphony Orchestra.
Right.
You got London Symphony Orchestra did everybody back in the day.
Yep.
They were on contract, I'm sure, with Spielberg. And then wasn't it John Williams too?
I think it was made to sound like John Williams.
Maybe Jack Williams,
Brian Williams. Who's to say?
From Nightly News.
That's
there you
go. He does what he can. He helps out. One thing that popped out immediately is it said written by Dan O'Bannon. Up to his old tricks. And again, not O'Banion, just Bannon.
I literally wrote Dan O'Bannon.
It's not a banyan tree, for God's sakes. Sweet Jesus.
I'm putting some Irish stink on him.
Put a little stink on there. I wrote the first quote. I wrote a few quotes because they are bonkers. When the astronauts go into Halley's Comet, into the ship, they see the naked people in their crystal, I don't know, tombs
It looked
or
like
whatever.
something out of early Superman or something.
No question. They're like, what do you see? How does it look? And he's like, I've been in space for 6 months and she looks perfect to me. Boom. Not to mention, there are female astronauts on board. What are they saying? What the son of a bitch?
But they're not rocking it buck naked. How about this? At first, when they're entering the ship, I couldn't tell if it was a crawling up a colon, and then they get to this hive. I'm like, is that a cervix? Are they in fact in a giant vagina?
I think it all kind of comes back to that. You know what I mean? I think that was the theme, the message.
The cervix opened up, light cast through. Are you not seeing this?
I have to say, I'm not as familiar with the inner workings of the cervix as maybe I should be.
You have 3 children. It seems like you've walked that hall once or twice.
I don't go in there with an electron microscope, though.
Maybe you should. A flashlight or something, man.
So you're telling me. So they do bring back the crazy space aliens, but then it's like smash cut. Everybody's missing from the shuttle except for the 3 naked space aliens, right?
Right. And I must have bumped my head because where was he? All of a sudden, he just like appeared. I don't remember him being in the burnt out ship. Where did he come from?
Okay. About 45 minutes into the movie, they go, oh, hang on. We just discovered an escape pod that landed in Texas.
What?
Yes. That's kind of the twist. Is because we find out what was really going on. That's called the bullshit. He is literally the only American actor. I mean, this is ostensibly a British film, even though it is directed by Tobe Hooper, who is American.
Poor Tobe Hooper, man. This is part of his being shut down, wasn't it?
This is post-Poltergeist. Yeah, no question. We're going to talk about this because this is fascinating stuff. Let me just tell you. But anywho, so they bring the aliens back down to the Earth, okay? And they are wearing the most ridiculous biohazard suits I have ever seen when they're supposedly interacting with the vampires from space. Right. It looks like something from Walmart or something. I don't know what happened.
It is 100% ridiculous. They're trying to pretend like this is big budget, but it looks hokey fanoky.
Yes. Yes. It is absolutely hokey fanoky. So they've got naked Jane laying on the table. Okay. They have a security guard who, and I guess she kind of hypnotizes all the dudes without even trying.
That was an interesting concept. It was like she's got like some super pheromones of womanness that just is intoxicating and overwhelms you.
Right. So the first dude, the security guard, literally just rolls up on her. She is laying ostensibly dead on the slab. And he's like starting to make his move. I'm like, really? Necrophilia? We're just jumping right in it? Good times. But then she wakes up and gives him the kiss and sucks all of his life force out, and he turns into a little shriveled raisin man. It's a sad situation.
And did you notice they literally need to feed every 2 hours?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Right. So they suck out your juices. Then 2 hours later, they got to get some more. And if they've sucked out your juice, then you pop up 2 hours later to suck out somebody else's juice.
Except now you're like one of those California prunes or something.
You're literally a California prune.
They heard it through the grapevine.
They heard it through exactly. And then okay, this is kind of crazy. So she has now sucked out the juice of the first security guard. This other guy who works for the space agency, Dr. Bukovsky or whatever, runs down there. She doesn't suck out his juice, but she gives him a little taste of whatever it is she's working with. And that's when he kind of, later they interview him and he's like, it was like raw sexuality. I couldn't control myself. It was horrible. And he's like, I have to go sit down. I have to, really?
Get the vapors.
He's got something going on. He's like, please excuse me while I go to the bathroom. What's happening?
I know. He's got the Jimmy penis.
He absolutely does. Sweet Jesus. There's a scene when she is escaping from the space agency where there's like a bunch of these security guards sitting there. One of them is old as hell. He's sitting behind the counter, and you see her silhouette approach, and it is literally just a silhouette of her boobs entering the frame, taking up the shadowy boobs approaching.
He's just happy to be there.
Oh, no question. No question. Sweet Jesus.
She's the epitome of 80s, just alabaster skin, and she's a good-looking chick.
She is attractive, obviously, and she's a knockout. But she has a quality which kind of makes her look kind of.
Is it because the curtains and the carpet don't match? To have such dark hair and then have blonde pubic hair was confusing to me. Usually it's the other way around.
We're going to talk about this. I have notes. I have copious notes about all of the machinations. But something about her facial structure kind of makes her look unworldly. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
beautiful yet a little different.
A little Eastern European, a little almond eyes.
Something. And I mean, I think she says a couple words because she didn't really speak English because, I was going to say she's from the Ukraine or something, but that's not the case. We're going to talk about that. But
the men talk.
The men do talk. They do. Yes. The male vampires pop up and say a few things here and there. She does speak, but not in those first 45. I think she says like, use my body or something at one point.
Let's get busy. Let's get busy, baby.
She says, let's get busy. That's a direct quote from the script, I think. But she was good. I mean, her facial expressions, there was something going on. Like, she was acting. She wasn't just some, stripper they picked up by the airport. You know what I mean?
So if we had to give the award for this film of who was really acting, the Academy goes to Alien Girl 1, right?
I would say she's up there. Are you being facetious or are you agreeing with me?
No, I think you're probably right because everybody else is, of course, overacting.
That is a sad
and I honestly don't believe that they were trying to be tongue-in-cheek.
No.
I think they meant this to be a serious situation, which makes it even more sad for them.
It does indeed. It's a sad situation. There are plenty of scenes where naked woman is wandering through the halls, escaping from this space agency, and the security guards, who are like the Keystone Cops, bumbling all over each other. Stop that girl! That girl is no girl. And that's a lot of like, they see, they're like, okay, well, she's coming this way. And then they see her and they see that she's like a naked chick. And they're just kind of like, whoa, hey, going my way? What are you doing? Not so fast, sailor.
Yeah, it's ridiculousness.
Womp, womp, womp. Do you have any highlights you want to talk about? Because I got pages.
Oh, we got things. At one point, she says she is a creation based on his mind. So should we assume the two effeminate men with him are also from his mind?
Yes, I think that's absolutely the case. He dabbles. He dabbles.
I've been away from home for 6 months, so let's have a 4-way.
You got to do what you got to do. If you've been in space for that long, you just got to, love the one you're with. I think as Stephen Sills would say.
There's so many. At one point, they start shooting the male vampires, and literally chunks of meat are flying off.
Yes.
And well, if chunks of meat are flying off, they throw a grenade and then somehow they got away?
Okay. About an hour.
If they break your pieces down into like death becomes you. Maybe it's like that. Remember at the end they shatter to 1,000 pieces, but all the pieces are still
alive. Well, there's a couple things about this scene. You're right. The British soldiers apparently shoot the male space vampires, but if you're watching close, they're really just waving around their guns and they're not going off. I mean, there's like the sound. I mean, you hear the guns firing, but they aren't really
They
firing
had
their
a
guns.
close-up of chunks of meat flying out of the chest of the space vampires.
Right. So at this point, about this point, we start to learn that one of the many powers of the vampires is that they can jump from body to body, right? Because she, I guess, has hidden her real body somewhere in London, but has now jumped into the body of some streetwalker. I don't know what the deal was.
And what's the advantage? Why do you need to keep the body, and why do the boys not need to keep their bodies?
Well, again,
unanswered.
They're shot to ribbons, but apparently
grenaded,
and apparently at this moment they jump into the bodies of those guys who were shooting them. But later in the movie, they're back in their regular bodies. So I don't know what the story is.
And another thing is sometimes they drink these people dry and they're dead. And
is that what happens?
Well, at the beginning, the first person was like just dead.
No, he popped back, remember?
Is that correct?
Yes, there's a later scene when they're in the autopsy and they're about to do an autopsy on the shriveled raisin man, and he pops up and sucks the life out of the coroner or whatever. So then he's like back looking normal, and the coroner is a shriveled raisin man. So at this point, they go, okay, well, we'll lock both these guys up in separate cells and just see what happens.
And within 2 hours,
yes.
they shriveled back. They freaked out, shriveled it back up, and then turned into dust.
Right. Well, one of them like literally explodes into a cloud of dust.
That was great. He ran towards the gate to get at him.
Yes.
And all that was left was like there was like an arm, and the rest of it just flew through the cage like ash. It was great. That was a good scene.
And again, I guess we're not worried about the biohazard suits anymore, since we're getting just sprayed with the detritus of crazy alien dust.
Exactly.
Good times.
If that was the vid, you'd all be down.
It's no masks, clearly. Sweet Jesus.
It was a better time. It was the 80s. We only had AIDS to worry about.
This is true. We only had AIDS to worry about. Exactly. We meet Dr. Falada, Hans Falada.
What's that from? Lotta Falada.
There's a lot of vagina from Austin Powers, if that's what you're referring to.
Maybe
Sweet
that's
Jesus.
it.
And he drops this line. He says, "She is totally alien life form and totally dangerous." Like it was like
God.
that zoom in, slow, like where he's delivering this impassioned speech. There were a lot of classically trained Shakespearean actors saying nonsense.
Yeah, it's true. Once again, they brought out all their second tier British actors straight off the London stage and said, you're going to be a space movie. It's going to be just like Star Wars. We're all going to get rich.
Right. It's a horror story. I mean, well, and we kind of, it's kind of like what you said earlier, where it was like the space alien had said, the alien woman was like, these aren't even our real forms. You know what I'm saying? This hot number you're checking out is not real. This is just the form I pulled from your mind. We know what they really look like because we saw all the other crazy bat creatures floating around in space in their spaceship.
But we didn't get a good look till the end. They were clearly some kind of weird, like flying foxes, but giant.
Well, but they had like weird old bat wings or something.
Bat wings. Well, flying foxes are those big fruit bats that have like a fox face. Because at the end, when they're in their real form, it literally looks like a dog face, but like with a humanoid bat thing. Ridiculous.
It was like a pterodactyl or something. I don't know what the hell was happening.
I'm telling you, it had a dog head. That's why I was thinking of the flying foxes. And you'll notice that in their original form were much bigger than the ones that were floating around all desiccated. Or maybe it's like a raisin. When you shrink, it gets smaller. Maybe if we soaked the dead vampires, it'd be like those things you get at the toy store where they grow 100 times.
Nothing at the toy store is growing 100 times.
Well, that was always the ripoff. You buy this little shriveled up thing, and it'll grow. They'll be like, it grows, and you see it like standing over your house. So you put it in your water, and you realize 100 times it goes from 1 inch to like 4 inches.
If you're lucky. And then what do you do with it? You're like,
Then you're like, I spent $1 on that, and then you get angry and you throw it in the trash, and that's when you first realize life's not fair.
That is when it first all comes together. It's a sad situation. I love later in the movie. So the astronaut, Colonel Carlson, is that his name? There's literally a 20-minute psychedelic lovemaking scene between him and the female vampire.
Oh my God, it was like the worst porn. It was like literally, here are two strangers, you're totally not into each other, let's get it on.
Well, and the creepy thing is, he was in his 40s, clearly. Little withered. And she, from my notes, she had barely turned 19.
Oof.
Right.
It was the most awkward, and they kept having them, and they were so awkward, and like even kissing, it was like two people kissing that had never kissed before, and right. I don't even just kissed each other before, like it was a new concept. That's how awkward the scene was.
Right. It was tricky. It was tricky to say the least.
So she lost points on that Academy Award. Because even in porn, you have more passion than that.
I know. Maybe take a second take or a third take to get it right. I don't know what you do.
Or acting.
The poster for this movie, which is kind of has nothing to do with what was happening in the movie, is just a giant eyeball over the earth.
Which has nothing to do with anything.
Has nothing to do with anything. It's just like, what the hell does this have?
I mean, the vampires do have eyes.
They do. The hills have eyes as well.
The hills have eyes also. So maybe that could also have been a shared poster.
Yes. Oh, God. Okay. There is a scene they figured out because...
Dude, Hills Have Eyes versus the space vampires. Who wins?
Who wins indeed? Who's to say?
Those troglodytes would like to get with the space witches.
They should be so lucky. So later in the movie, she has jumped into the body of the streetwalker who makes her way to the what is it? The asylum for the criminally insane for some reason.
This is so just bizarre.
And I almost fell out of my chair. What is it? The head of the head psychiatrist, I guess, at the asylum is Patrick Stewart. You're like, what are you doing in this movie? And again,
run away, Mr. Stewart, run away.
Sad situation. And like I said, the astronaut has kind of a psychic connection with the queen vampire woman, space alien, for some reason. Did they explain why they have a connection? What their connection is?
I don't know. I think when you give the sweet love, some of it stays with you or something like that. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Well, she said something kind of like, "You're just like us," or "You're one of us," kind of thing. And just like, what? What are you talking? What does this mean?
I was trying to figure out, does that mean that there are overlords? It's like all those movies from the 70s about how aliens came to Earth, and that's why we have Native Americans, and that's what all these
I'm not familiar with that racist belief.
Oh my God. They used to have these shows all the time when I was a kid. Aliens build the pyramids. Aliens told the native people how to write those petroglyphs. And alien vampires apparently fell in the former Czech Republic. So, boom.
But that's not what you said initially. You said the reason why we have Native Americans is because of aliens. That's a different racist trope. So thank you very much for that.
They guided. It was not my theory. I'm only repeating, Third Reich conspiracies.
So you didn't come up with it, but you espouse it? Is that what you're saying?
I was comparing the story in the movie to old 70s, like In Search of shows. They had like Chariots of the Gods.
Yes.
You saw that, didn't you?
I'm familiar.
Maybe I'll put that on the list.
The ziggurats in Central and South America were built by the ancient aliens or something.
That's
Good
right,
times.
because you want to take all credit away from any ancient civilization.
Exactly.
They weren't Americans. They couldn't have figured that out. Of course, there wasn't any Americans back then, but
it's all racism.
That's true.
Anywho, so he's got a psychic connection with her. So he's figured out that she's in the body of this person, and he's like grabbing her, and he can like kind of read her mind. And then he says like, because he's like, where is she? Where is she? Where's your body? And then he's like, I can see into her mind. She's a masochist. She wants me to beat it out of her. And he tells the police, he's not a police detective, he's like a SAS colonel.
Do you love that astronauts are kicking indoors and investigating?
They do. They handle it themselves. and he tells the SAS colonel, he's like, you might want to step out of the room. And the guy's response is, that's okay. I'm a natural voyeur.
He looks like he's some kind of shady character. He spent some time in prison.
It's like, what? Who is writing this? What kind of direction?
Dan O'Bannon, of course.
Sweet Jesus. In his British voice, he's like, that's okay, I'm a natural voyeur. And like sits down in the recliner and leans back like he's going to enjoy the show. What a horror story.
Back in the day, maybe that these were all sexy lines, but now it's like, ugh.
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
It's damn creepy.
Everyone in this movie is slightly creepy.
And sometimes more than slightly, I'm sad to say. Later, he kind of susses out that Patrick Stewart is really the carrier of the woman, of the space alien's mind or whatever. And so he sets up like this sting operation, this astronaut. He's like, oh, we have to go see the crazy psychopath with the birthmark on his face because we think he's the alien. And
I was like, why would she choose that when it's all locked up? I mean, I get like if you're in an asylum, you want to be around in the open area so you can like suck everyone dry while they're asleep. Why would, because like that little theory of theirs made zero sense.
Right. And so he goes in there with Patrick Stewart with like some kind of fentanyl or pentothal or some kind of syringe.
Something Michael Jackson's doctor, I'm sure, had by
Propofol.
Propofol.
It was something like that.
They made him a mummy out of the the fentanyl pads. That's
what it was.
Strapped them all down.
So at this moment,
it literally went from like sodium pentothal,
yes,
like the truth telling, to then they were just shooting him up with heroin by the end, I think.
Just give me whatever you have in a syringe handy, okay? Just pass it on over. So
Windex,
whatever you got. So he grabs Patrick Stewart, because the reveal is Patrick Stewart was actually the carrier. The SAS guy hits him in the neck with the syringe. And now, meanwhile, there's an orderly standing by who's just like, what are you guys doing to the doctor? And they're like, don't worry about it. He's like, okay, deuces. I mean,
like, wouldn't you at least, maybe you don't want to go in there and start swinging, but wouldn't you call the popo or call somebody?
He doesn't do anything. He's like right on board. I guess the doctor was
who these assholes are. They just rolled in like, hello.
And then there's a 10-minute scene of the astronaut literally like wrestling Patrick Stewart to the ground single-handedly for 5 minutes. It's like,
he's not a muscly guy. He is not a muscly guy. Patrick Stewart is a lover, not a fighter.
I mean, I've seen less contact in prison movies. I mean, it was ridiculous. What is happening? It's like an episode of Oz. Anyway. So then he says, I knew he was I knew he had the alien inside him because when he touched me, I got a vision in my mind. Basically,
I got a tingle in my pee-pee because I thought that.
I got my Peter tingle. Is what it was. And I went back and looked. Patrick Stewart touched him like when he first walked in the door of the asylum, like a half an hour later, before he was assaulting the streetwalker up in her room. So who the hell knows what's going on now? Later. This whole scene is ridiculous.
It is 100% ridiculous.
Later, he is now interrogating Patrick Stewart, and Patrick Stewart kind of cuts back and forth between there's the alien on the table, there's Patrick Stewart on the table, there's the alien on the table. Patrick Stewart is like I love you. I want to be with you. I want you with my body.
I thought he was going to get busy with Patrick Stewart there for a minute.
They started kissing. And again, Patrick Stewart
and nobody's like, dude, hey.
This is
Stop molesting Patrick Stewart.
It was a Me Too moment. Patrick Stewart was chained to the table.
Harvey, stop. Back off. He's
clearly not in control of his body, and yet here's the astronaut molesting him. Very upsetting. Now, who are we supposed to be rooting for in this movie? Who's to say? Oh, sweet Jesus. Do you have a scene? Because I can keep going for days.
I wanted to make the comment about the idea that that you have this psychic connection of vampires is not new with this. Maybe later vampires, they're always, and it's not the one. It's always the one that they're having the affair with, not the ones they're just popping like a 6-pack.
Well, it's like Mina from the Dracula movies, right?
Yeah, she's always tracking him.
For reals. Earlier in the movie, Dr. Fallada just happened to be pulling out a broadsword. He's like, oh, look at this broadsword that I have. I mean, I know it's England, but is that standard? People are like, well, I just have a broadsword that I like to keep in my office with me. What? Is this how it works?
In case the shit goes down. I like at one point the government solution with the vampire problem is they're just going to nuke London.
Right. They've given up the ghost. It is literally the same day. The same day, they're like, yeah, let's just nuke it. Hey, we're good. Quarantine the city, drop an H-bomb on there, call it even. What do you say?
Mm-hmm. It was like that other movie. It's like The Swarm. Their first thought is, we're just going to burn Chicago down. Why didn't they just nuke Chicago? Oh, and Dr. Fallada, that's the gray-haired man. Yes. He, in fact, is the one who farts his essence out of his ass.
I believe it.
I have it in my notes. I'm like, the gray-haired guy's stream flew out of his ass.
This is what happens in Lifeforce. Let me tell you.
And then it's like it makes no sense because where's the Lifeforce going? It's going to keep them alive, but at the same time, it's concentrated in the church and shooting into outer space. So, what?
This is a good question. Because, the climax of the movie is London is overrun with basically zombies. Yeah. All the people because that's the grand reveal. They think they're just hunting the one vampire woman. While meanwhile, I guess the bros are just turning everybody in London into vampires. Is that what's occurring in those 3 hours time?
The 3, because they're only interested in the sexy lady. Not that there's 2 other dudes just cruising around. Or maybe they don't realize it. Maybe they thought they got blowed up.
Right. Well,
yes. The eye off the ball.
Right. Because they call Dr. Fallada later. And they're like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, and he spills the whole beans. He's like, well, when they shot the vampires, they jumped into those bodies. Because later, one of those dudes knocks on Dr. Fallada's door and has a crazy look in his eye. So
the come hither look, you might say?
You might.
I've never sensed such masculinity in one room.
That's basically what it was. It was like pure testosterone.
It smelled like jock straps and old Pringles tater chips.
It was horrible.
I couldn't resist.
Exactly. Dr. Fallada also discovers if you happen to have an 18th century broadsword, you could stab them not in the heart, but like just in the middle of their chest, I guess. And that gets the job done.
And then you can't even do that because then they'll just hop out.
Which I guess is what happens, right? Because,
exactly.
Yes, because the SAS guy, I should just freaking figure out what these people. It's colonels. They're both colonels. It's Colonel Carlson, the astronaut, and Colonel Kane, the Special Air Service. But he's acting like he's a detective or something. He's got like a trench coat on, ordering people around. Who the hell knows what's happening? It's madness. While they were at
Daddy-o. I've stopped taking notes at this point. I started making dinner. You may continue.
Thank you. When they go to like Thornhill Asylum or whatever for half an hour,
that sounds like the Harry Potter. What is it? Arkham
Asylum.
Arkham Asylum. Why didn't they go there? Yeah. What was the one in Harry Potter? Since this is a British show.
You're talking about Hogwarts?
No.
Arkham. There's the city of Arkham.
The prison in Harry Potter.
Oh crap! What was the name of the prison in Harry Potter?
You know you're a pothead.
Is that what they're called?
That's what I just named it.
Sweet, I should know this. I don't. Shoot, I don't remember.
I forgive you.
If you look it up, I will go. Oh yes, of course, that's it.
All right.
So while they were investigating the asylum, basically all of London is turned into this ground zero for zombie action. So when they start flying back, they're like, "Hey, the radio, you might want to get this, sir." And that's when they realize
Azkaban.
Yes, Arkham is a city.
Azkaban, it's all the same.
Arkham's a city in like H.P. Lovecraft stories. So there you go, Arkham, Massachusetts.
Okay,
there you have it. Good times.
Is that where Batman takes place?
No, he takes place in Gotham City.
But why is he?
What in the hell is happening? They thought it sounded creepy, so they named the insane asylum in the Batman universe Arkham Asylum, taking it from H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay, not because that's the name of the town. I'm like, is Gotham in Massachusetts?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Sweet Jesus. Later in the movie, when they're on the helicopter, they're bringing Patrick Stewart's dead body, and then poor Sir Percy, who was straggling along with them for some reason. I guess he's the head of the space department.
He was one of my favorite characters.
Well, he was hilarious because he would just make crazy facial expressions the whole time. So he would appear on the scene and then just make a weird look. It's just like, what is happening?
He was my favorite one. Poor Uncle Oh no, that's from a porn. What did you say? He was Sir Percy.
Sir Percy, because they're all lords and ladies and things like that in England.
Yes.
Evidently, that's how it works.
Apparently.
He is killed. Patrick Stewart is killed, I guess, because she leaves his body and he's just been vigorously molested by the astronaut, so he just can't live. Sir Percy is in the room, and I guess he gets his neck broken from falling debris or something.
Oh, yeah. He gets thrown backwards, and then his head falls off or something.
So they're on the helicopter, and spontaneously, for seemingly no reason, blood just starts pouring out of their faces. And
oh my God, you know what I thought? I didn't know it was coming out of both of their faces.
Yes.
I was like, what shitty mass? Why do they have two different heads for Patrick Stewart? I was like, because they flash back and forth. I'm like, what?
Right.
I didn't realize it was coming out of Sir Percy's too. But yeah, all this blood juice starts flying into space and forms the woman who says some gibberish, and then it just splashes. Oh, she's gone now. Well, where'd she go?
Back to a real body, I guess.
So why do they even need to jump bodies if they can just float around in spirit?
Who in the hell knows? And what I kept thinking is like, okay, so she had possessed Patrick Stewart. I guess that makes sense why she can pull the blood out of him. But what about poor Sir Percy? He wasn't possessed. He just got hit by a log or something and got his neck broken. Why is the blood coming out of him?
Why did the blood need to come out of anywhere? If she's possessed Patrick Stewart, why doesn't she just talk through his body?
These are all important questions.
Or if she can't talk to his body because he's all drugged up, then go into old Uncle Percy there.
There is no Uncle Percy, by the way.
That's from a porn that Cian showed me about. It was some kind
This
of
is don't need to
it's just god awful enema porn that he told me.
Already too much information.
Uncle Percy, I'm filling up. That was the famous line.
Already too much information. Sweet Jesus. I liked how the helicopter pilot is literally turns around to see what's going on and is about to crash the helicopter because he's not paying attention. He's literally
not. His only line was that no matter what was going on behind him, was to just turn around and give you more information.
That's
he was unfazed by anything going on.
Until he turns around and is about to crash the helicopter. It's like, come on, you jackass. Meanwhile, they're flying over London. Buildings are just exploding.
Why? We don't know.
We don't know. It takes a lot to blow up a building. I don't know if an attack by a zombie would just instantly make the building explode, but whatever. Good times.
This is when we have all the blue laser lights zipping through town that is all completely unexplainable. I'm assuming there's no one left in London because you just see swaths, like an energy wave just flies over groups of people and they're just all shrivelly. Well, if you can do that, why are you messing around sneaking up on one or two people at a time?
I think what we're supposed to think is that when the people in town, the new humans, vampire people, when they attack somebody and suck out their soul, the souls fly back to the male vampires who send it to the female vampire who shoots it up into space, into their spaceship for reasons that are never fully explained.
So they're not really eating them, they're just storing them?
I guess. But it's, again, not fully explained. And these vampires looked very zombie-ish because they've already established that you only look like a raisin right after you get your life force sucked out of you. But the moment you suck the life force out of somebody else, then you kind of snap back into looking kind of normal.
You fluff back up again. Yeah, and earlier in the film, the one guy who sucked the other dude's stuff back in and was clearly like his normal self and didn't even realize what was going on.
Right. He seemed upset.
He seemed upset by the whole situation. That didn't help him at all since he turned to powder 2 minutes later.
Well, 2 hours later. Yeah. But the cops were able to come in and just grab him at the beginning of the movie and it was fine. He didn't immediately start sucking their life forces.
No, it was strange.
So it's a little sketchy, let's just say. And frankly, the amount of people who were being attacked, you think there would be nobody left. But whenever they would cut through the montages, it was constantly people being attacked. Over and constantly being attacked by vampires. Constantly. It's like, haven't people left town yet? Or what's happening? I mean...
Well, they thought it was a plague at one point, and they were not going to let people through. So why are you hanging out in the street corners well, we see that every day. That's called coronavirus.
Yes.
You don't tread on me! You can't take my freedom. I don't give a damn if there's vampires sucking the life out of me. It's my right.
That would be the end of them. It's a sad situation.
Exactly.
I think that's about it. There's a scene where the astronaut drives into town to go confront the female vampire woman. And the SAS guy is following him because I guess he's trying to help, I guess. You hear people screaming, help, help, and they do not help anybody. They're like later, one point, the astronaut pulls over and is like lost in thought or something, and a freaking vampire reaches in the window to grab at him. I'm like, your window's not at least rolled up, jackass?
I know, jackass. You deserve what you get, man.
You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
Exactly, you don't throw a fit.
Or you don't throw a fit. Either one. The last note I wrote is literally, what happened? Question mark.
Yes, I wrote the same thing because the ending, I was like, what?
Yes. At the end, in mid-coital bliss, they fly up into space, I guess, is what we're supposed to think.
And not even, there's a lot of making out and no actual sex. So at the end, they're in a church standing up buck naked, like in a hole in the crypt, just kissing in their freakish kissing way, standing,
buck naked.
Buck naked, just a lot of rubbing hands on shoulders. It was nothing sexy about this weak porn. And then his friend was like, "Hey," waving at him through the hole. And then he stole like the broadsword out of Lotta Falata and threw it down there. And so the dude from behind stabs the girl and himself.
Right.
All the way through, and then they fly to outer space where everybody's good, and then they fly away.
I appreciated that the astronaut goes to the chapel to find the naked space alien, and is like, you know what? I seem to be a little overdressed, and immediately gets bone naked and climbs up on the sepulcher or whatever it is, the altar. I don't know what he's doing. He's defiling the church, whatever it is.
That's right.
And
in front of 10,000 dead people.
Why not? Why not? Nothing's more erotic, I find. Good Lord, sweet Jesus.
Jesus can't help you here.
He cannot. Are you ready for behind the scenes?
I'm ready, because there's nothing in front of the scenes at this point.
Okay, as we all know, Tobe Hooper went to, fame behind Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was his kind of low-budget horror movie that he financed himself with others and kind of put it out there, became hugely successful. Everybody loved it.
100%.
He kind of went through a bizarro period where he was doing other kind of crappy movies. But Spielberg was a big fan because of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he brought him on to Poltergeist. Now, there's a lot of, conspiracy theories.
But he didn't trust him to do the job.
Well, that's the question. Who really directed Poltergeist? Who's to say? Later, Spielberg basically had to come out and say, no, he did the whole thing. I was there as a producer, but I didn't.
He was under pressure, though.
Right. Oh, no question. But in any case, it very much kind of followed Tobe Hooper around after that.
Sorry, Toby.
It's a sad situation.
I think it's the name. Nobody trusts a Toby.
They don't. It's a sad situation.
Little known fact, that's an old name for the devil.
It is?
Yeah. Toby's Tokus. The devil's butt.
I'm going to have to write this down.
Old Scratch.
Anywho, so after this, Tobe Hooper signs a 3-picture deal with the notorious Cannon Films.
Right.
Cannon Films are notorious because they overpromise and underdeliver, essentially. All of their movies are horrendous and ridiculous. They are the whole reason why Chuck Norris has a career. They are the ones who insisted on bringing back a 75-year-old Charles Bronson to keep making Death Wish movies.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so he's going to make 3 movies. He makes Lifeforce, which got its budget slashed halfway through, which is why it's kind of uneven, I think is a nice way to put it. He also made Invaders from Mars, which was a remake of a 1950s science fiction movie.
Not that Invaders from Mars.
No, not the good one. The crappy one from the 80s starring Lorraine Newman. So there was that. Later, he finished up with Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Oh, dear, Toby.
Good times. We don't need to talk anymore about that. But anyway, there was a script called The Space Vampires. And it was based upon a book. Okay, and they changed some details to turn it into this movie, Lifeforce. They were ashamed to be doing a movie called Space Vampires. That's why they changed the title into Lifeforce.
I think can I get a job naming shit in Hollywood? Because Lifeforce is shitty too.
Well, what would you have called this movie?
Now you put me on the spot.
Think about it while I continue.
Blather away while I start brainstorming.
So they had a hard time casting the naked space vampire lady. Okay, as you might imagine, a lot of British actresses are going up for the role who are like, I'm naked for how much of this movie? Full frontal, had a hard time. Eventually, they found a 19-year-old French dancer named Mathilda May who got the role.
Mathilda May is a French person?
It is. That's her stage name.
Okay.
It's something very French in real life. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, that would be the opposite of a French maid. Matilda, for God's sake, isn't that like Australian? Waltzing Matilda, waltzing. Anyway,
she's
I digress.
French. That's a big digression. She didn't speak any English, so I had to learn all her lines phonetically. But one
thing that helps since she had no lines.
It was a big help. It's hilarious because her being French meant that even between takes, she just sat around naked. She didn't give a damn. She's like, I'm cool.
Right on, Frenchie lady.
She's like, whatever's clever.
I'm proud of you.
Later, Tobe Hooper was asked about what if you could say one word to describe your memories of Lifeforce. He just said, "Oh, Mathilda May."
Just walking around naked at the craft services table.
That's all you need to know.
Watch out for that coffee. It's hot.
They painted rubber soles on her bare feet for the scene when she blows out all the glass and then just kind of crunches over it to walk out into the British night so as not to injure herself.
Well, that's something, I guess.
That's helpful. Tobe Hooper is the one who came up with the idea of adding Halley's Comet to this. That was obviously not in the original story.
Not Hail Bop.
Not Hail Bop. Not Heaven's Gate or whatever else. But because it was topical at the time. I think Halley's Comet was coming out like a year later.
And now you know the Halley's Comet is full of space vampires. Not that we're going to live to see it again.
Hey, speak for yourself. Tobe Hooper once revealed that at an early stage of the shooting, they waxed Mathilda May's pubic hair off completely, thinking it would make her look less nude.
What?
They were horribly mistaken. We've been down this road before.
Oh my God.
Where they're like, we can't see pubic hair. Do something about that. And then they do, and they're like, oh my God, what are you doing? What have we done?
Because no one had ever seen a waxed woman before?
Clearly not.
Oh my God. People used to scream when they saw My Hairless Cat. So imagine the first time you ever saw the pubis of an adult woman after it had all been removed. What's happening?
Basically.
It's a curtain. It's a curtain hiding other things.
It was basically full reveal at that point. Whatever slight obscurement was there, no longer. So they had...
What did they get her a merkin?
They just had to have her slowly grow it back, essentially. But in true grotesque Hollywood fashion, Tobe Hooper would have to like inspect her from time to time.
Come on, Toby. This is some Weinstein shit. Stand on a table so I might inspect you.
Right.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable because you couldn't have like a lady inspect it.
Well, and the makeup artist, her name is Sandra Exelby, basically had to basically stop him because he was happy when it was all gone, and she's like, "No, you can't do that." He said, "This girl is basically an 18-year-old child. We can't do that. I mean, and this will obviously make her look even younger if you shave it off all the way."
Oh, good point. That, quite frankly, this is my opposition to the full Brazilian. I'm like, really, dudes?
Right.
You want to date a 12-year-old?
No.
Is that it?
No. So it's a horror story. So it was a lot of the makeup artist saying, we can't do that. Come on. She's on, 90% of the time she's on stage or on screen, she's naked as a jaybird. It's like they had to digitally add shadows in places. Otherwise, it would have been like an X-rated movie.
You don't know what's going on. Women, it's not like a Barbie doll. Things stick out, man. You don't want to get this full anatomical biz going on.
You do not. So, but he was insistent, and then he said, like, okay, if we can't shave it, then lighten it up, because I want it to disappear. In some days,
they bleached her hooch hair.
They did that, and they kept trying to trim it. On occasion, the makeup artist would sprinkle like hair, wig hair onto the floor so she could say, "Hey, look, I did trim it."
Oh no.
I did trim it, you freak.
This has become some kind of disturbing Tobe Hooper story. Is he in hell yet? Is he dead? Is he still alive? This crotch fascination is reminding me of Trash from that terrible movie that we watched. Remember Trash?
Absolutely. From Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead. I'm starting to get some Trash flashbacks. Did she need to be examined also by the director?
The producers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a horror story.
The Hollywood Foreign Press.
They helped out when they could.
This is a disturbing story. Let me see the pubis. It hasn't grown much since yesterday.
It's a horror story.
I'm writing a letter to this poor actress.
As you should. I mean, she's like 55 now, so I mean, she's doing.
So she's a year younger than me. Thank you. So between being molested by Steve Railsback and Tobe Hooper's in-depth examinations, I don't know.
Yes, it's a horror story. Tobe Hooper recalls his time on the film favorably. He was saying,
"I bet he do."
That Cannon just basically let him do whatever the hell he wanted, and
Clearly,
that's what he likes. Good times. Tobe Hooper nicknamed the victims of the space vampires as the Walking Shriveled. So there you go. Write that down.
I will not.
This is one of the movies that basically bankrupted canon. This movie, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and Masters of the Universe. Where it was like...
Right there. Just listen to those titles.
Right, exactly.
Makes sense.
Their big business model is they would go and basically buy the rights to make the next movie in a more successful series. You know what I mean? No. And just drive it into the ground. Horror story.
Are they responsible for Star Trek with saving the whales? Would they have their hands in that filthy pie?
It wouldn't shock me, but I don't think they did. Frank Finley, who played Falada. See, there were characters that were supposed to be Russian and German, but they weren't allowed to use their accents that they were supposed to be, because Matilda May was learning her accent from modeling them.
Oh, Jesus.
So now everybody had to, so you had Bukowski speaking with just a British accent, Hans Falada speaking with just a British accent. It all goes right out the window. It's a sad situation.
I agree.
Matilda May has only 7 minutes of screen time. And
that is shocking. She seems to be naked for 2.5 hours.
At least. Well, it is when I press the pause button. That is true. No question. Wah, wah, wah.
And as usual, all the androgynous men, there happens to be some kind of opaque glass right around their hoo-ha.
Right. I was only just going to say that. The men all wore kind of flesh-colored undies, essentially, so you're not seeing their packages.
Shame on you, boys. Yep. Shame on you.
Where she is bone naked the entire time she's on
Game of Thrones, and the rest of these jerks are Mary Poppins.
It's a sad situation. Sir Patrick Stewart has his first on-screen kiss in this movie, and it's with Steve Railsback.
It's true. I think he was always a baddie on at least in American movies and TV before this.
Yep.
People are not getting busy with him.
Clearly not. Patrick Stewart has said several times that Tobe Hooper was his favorite director to work with. Look at that.
Why? Is there an explanation for that?
He says because he loved making out with Steve Railsback.
And Tobe Hooper always had naked 18-year-olds cruising around smoking Gauloises blondes in the break room.
That's it. Good times. Olivia Hussey was going to be in this movie.
What? What was she going to do? Olivia Hussey from
Romeo and Juliet.
Favorite version of Romeo and Juliet.
Black Christmas. The list goes on and
Black celebration. Anyway.
She turned it down because she thought...
Was she going to be the alien?
She was not. She was going to be the street walking nurse who gets possessed halfway through the movie.
All
But
right, so
she thought she was going to be the alien, so she bailed. She's like, I'm not going to be on stage naked or on screen naked for all this entire movie. By then, it was too late, so they recast the role. Very sad situation. Well, I think that's all we need to know.
That is enough. Except it's 2.5 hours long. It's too much nonsense.
Too much nonsense. Oh, the actor Frank Finley, who plays Hans Fallada, was because he's a famous Shakespearean British actor. He was in a situation where he was being introduced to the royal family.
Oh no.
About this time. And the Queen literally asked him, "Oh, what are you working on right now?" And he was too embarrassed to mention this movie. He was like, not much.
Shakespeare in the Park.
Exactly. Shall we go to the cast?
All right. Now, let's do the cast, but I have to tell you,
Please.
When I saw the name Steve Railsback, it sounded so familiar, but then when I went to look, I wasn't really seeing anything. Why do I know this name?
Steve Railsback has been in a few things. He's got kind of you think of him, because I always think of him because he was in that movie, In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood.
No.
And he had a very small role. He was like a CIA operative.
No, Helter Skelter.
Oh, who was he in Helter Skelter?
Charles Manson.
Was he really?
Okay, Helter Skelter. No.
Oh, he played Ed Gein in the Ed Gein movie. So
I think I saw that too.
He was also in Barbed Wire with Pamela Anderson.
I put a pass on that.
He was Colonel Tom Carlson of the. He was an astronaut in this movie. Peter Firth played Colonel Colin Kane, the SAS guy.
I tried to see if he was related to Colin Firth, but then I got bored and gave up.
You might know him from MI5, which is our dad's favorite show, the British intelligence show. He was also in Hunt for October. I
did see that.
He was in Equus in 1977.
Oh,
good time.
Lord, I think I saw that.
Frank Finley played Dr. Hans Fallada. You know him from The Pianist.
No, I don't.
He was Iago in Othello in 1965.
Boy, that's a big jump back.
He was in The Three Musketeers in 1973. He played Porthos.
I might have seen that one. That's the one.
Michael York classic.
Yeah, the Michael York version.
With Oliver Reed and Richard Chamberlain.
Yep. I remember. I love The Three Musketeers.
Matilda May, you know her from this movie. She was also in The Jackal in 1997 and a bunch of French movies. So,
but not Les Yeux Sans Visage.
No one else will get that joke. Les Yeux Sans Visage.
Eyes without a face, got no human race. Eyes without a face.
She wouldn't have been born at that time.
No, she would not.
Patrick Stewart played Dr. Armstrong. Of course, you know him from Star Trek, and the X-Men movies. Good times.
Solid. That's where he really came. He really came to age when he was much, much older. So that's like, don't give up, people.
Not much. Give up. Star Trek: The Next Generation was like 2 years later. Let's be honest.
How old was he?
500 years old.
Exactly. So he started at 500, and he's still going.
He's still doing his thing.
He was the best captain of the Enterprise. Boom.
I don't disagree with that.
I don't
disagree. Just because Shatner was so ridiculous.
He was such a wild card.
You have to literally, if you have not seen the original Star Trek movie, Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Yes, there we go.
His performance, don't watch the whole thing because it's boring as hell. But the opening 20 minutes, it's literally the most stereotypical William Shatner performance you would ever see, where it's overacting, ridiculous, where the other actors are just looking at him going, what the hell is this?
It's the acting style is just called flying off the handle.
It is. It's crazy town. Dr. Bukovsky was played by Michael Gothard. I only know him because he was in For Your Eyes Only as one of the evil henchmen. And evidently, he was also in The Three Musketeers. He played Felton.
Felton, lesser role of Felton.
You know him, don't you?
He was the rat teasler.
Could be. Evidently, he was supposed to play the SAS agent, but when they got Peter Firth, they demoted him to this other role, which I guess set him spiraling into a depression. He should have been depressed that he was in this movie at all.
That's right.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
And I think that's about it. Shall we talk about the ratings?
Yes.
The Lifeforce currently has a 57% Rotten on Rotten Tomatoes.
That seems fair.
Now, the audience, shockingly enough, gave it 45% Rotten.
Fans say 30%.
I'm looking at the top critics. There's only two of them, neither of whom I'm familiar with, and one of them just said Lifeforce is a dog. That was their whole review. So good times. What do you have for your review for Lifeforce?
Okay, first of all, it's automatically deducted an entire star for being 2.5 hours long. So it's getting 2 3/4 vampiric cervixes.
Oh my God. Sweet Jesus. Oh, heaven help me. I like this movie. I like it. It's not a good movie, but it is so ridiculous that you can't help but just sit back and laugh. And I
would have totally given it much better ratings just for its ridiculousness if I wasn't also tortured by 2.5 hours.
The theatrical release is only 1:40.
I'm waiting for the director's cut. Is that 6 hours?
It's the 6-hour nonstop bonanza of Lifeforce. And I'll tell you, again, Melinda May in all her naked glory, I thought was quite good in this movie. I almost think that the movie is good for the first, 25 to 30 minutes. Like it starts to build something. When they get to the asylum and they're making out with Patrick Stewart, it takes a dark turn. It takes a dark, ridiculous turn.
A ridiculous turn.
And when it finally is like in the streets of London, that is where it's just like, what in the hell has happened? What is this movie that I'm watching? I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 naked silhouettes of bosoms from space vampires. So
and I've come up with a new name. How about Space Sizzle? How about, what are some other new names we could have for this? Boring porn. What else could we... Boring.
There you go. Write that down. Good times.
It's a keeper.
It's a keeper. Thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Aaron, we are on Instagram.
We're on the Insta, The Podcast That Wouldn't Die.
Don't forget those underscores, for God's sakes. You can email us at thepodcastthatwouldn'tdie at Gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Anywhere the finer podcasts are available.
Are we on iHeart Music?
We are, actually. So there you go. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and review, won't you? Next week, Aaron, what are we doing?
I saw we're up to 7 reviews now.
Oh, nice. I think we got one 1-star review in the mix. Thanks a lot, whoever you are.
Obviously a white supremacist or a fan of Hitler, whoever that was.
Clearly. There's no other explanation. So, Aaron, you were also on social media. What's the word?
Boom. I am the cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I am also, what am I?
Feed the pigeon or something?
Don't feed the pigeon.
Leave that damn pigeon alone.
Stop molesting pigeons.
Please.
And please don't send me pigeon gifts, because even though I have an Instagram account dedicated only to my pigeon, that doesn't mean I actually like pigeons.
I see. So you're a self-loathing pigeon?
Pigeons are winged rats. I'm telling you, when I was in Venice to get this picture wearing the pigeon head, I had to pour feed all over me, and the pigeons touched my whole body. This is why I'm immune to COVID.
This is a horrible story, by the way.
Oh, yeah. One of them actually touched my then boyfriend at the time, who immediately screamed, and we had to go immediately back to the hotel so he can give himself a Silkwood shower.
So, thank you very much, and be well.
You know, COVID's not over, children. So just don't be a dick. Just live that life. COVID, no COVID, don't be a dick.